I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube and BitChute. Yes, this is going to be on 2 platforms tonight. Joining me is my buddy Patrick McCray and my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We're here to discuss another episode of The Prisoner, Change of Mind. By the way, did they find when they couldn't get Leo McKern, did they get like the somebody who could look like Leo McKern?
They got somebody. They I mean, certainly they weigh similar things, so there is that.
Well, he was probably bugging one of the producers, like, "Dude, I need beer money. Seriously, give me some work." I mean, this is probably the one number 2 that I was seriously praying that Bret Hart would walk onto the screen and just slap the taste right out of number 2's mouth.
You know who would have been a really good number 2 for this episode? Roddy Piper. I mean, seriously, if they would have had Roddy Piper as the number 2 in this episode, it'd have been perfect. Because what you have at the beginning of this episode is a good old-fashioned slobber knocker. And you just have people fight. You have literally Patrick McGowan fighting these dudes. And I love it. It's sort of...
Are you just making up phrases and words now?
No. Slobber knocker is a phrase Jim Ross uses, or he did use. I don't know if he still uses it when he's in AEW.
You picked that one up in jail, didn't you?
Joel, can I ask you a question? You haven't been like drinking the syrup from the maraschino cherries, have you? Just asking.
No. Jim Ross, who was a commentator for WCW World Championship Wrestling, then he was a commentator for the then WWF, now WWE, and now he commentates for AEW. He used to say, "By God, it's a slobber knocker! It's a slobber knocker!" And so I use the word slobber knocker because that's what Jim Ross would use. Or if you will, this reminds me of a 3-on-1 handicap match. So I threw in my match reference, my catchphrase reference, and my wrestler reference all in one.
Why are you forcing the disabled into some bizarre, physical trial? Jewel, 3-on-1. Slobber. What are you saying?
See, Jewel, I'm surprised because you usually have a high level of quality in these podcasts, and it's gotten real low, real fast. I mean,
3-on-1. 3-on-1 is in WWF would have 3-on-1 handicap matches every now and again, and 3-on-1 it would be 3 guys against 1. Well, you have more than one guy against Patrick McGowan in this episode.
They'll knock the slobber right out.
Yeah, and basically, when it was an all-out brawl, which this is in a sense, it was called. Jim Ross would call it a slobber knocker. He would use that catchphrase. I'll send you a video when he says it. But
sure, videos of slobber knockers all night.
Ironically, the Slobber Knockers is the name of one of my favorite 1960s pop bands. So just putting that out there.
And the reason I picked Roddy Piper they should have had him for number 2 because they have all this physical interaction at the beginning and even in later on in this episode, which I like.
I thought he was better in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I have to agree with Patrick on this one.
Roddy McDowell.
Yeah,
because he was known. It's just become free association hell here.
Oh my God. Well, another wrestler they could have used was superstar Billy Graham, who recently passed away.
See, here's the thing. I don't think that number 2 joining in the physical festivities was part of the plot.
No, it wasn't.
But I do think because I was thinking about first. I know that like last time I'd mentioned that I wasn't sure that this episode, how much I felt about this episode. I actually do enjoy this episode, and I think it's a little darker than you would think on the surface. But when it comes to number 2, like he's the worst part of this episode because he's what you need. There's two actors who I think would be a better fit in terms of the plot. There's a British actor named Roger Delgado, but to use a Dark Shadows actor, Humbert Allen Estrado, because number 2 needed that Nicholas Blair. Yeah, of course I'm going to tell you that it's not my fault. It's the committee. I'm not doing this, and he's doing it to be a dick. And the funny thing is with this number 2, okay, this number 2 is an idiot. I mean, he sees number 6 like basically he's not drugged. He sees that his aide number 86, who I can see where they gave that number to Maxwell Smart, is kind of get doped up. Number 6 says, "Hey, I want to tell everybody why I resigned." And he goes, "Oh, okay."
Sorry.
I mean, that's just like, it's like basically, imagine, imagine a wrestler walking into a ring in a major match with a big sign that says, "Punch me in the gut."
Yeah.
It's a trap.
What
If they do that, it's a trap. I've been lured into situations like that before, and I lost a.
I didn't know you were a wrestler, Patrick.
I wasn't, but I was repairing some sound cable once at Freedom Hall in Louisville, and there was a guy who wanted to punch me in the gut, and then we have the sad story of Houdini. I don't know, Joel. This is an episode. I kind of liked it. I did. I thought it was. Yeah, I mean, for one thing, it was an episode I felt like was made for me and my own private paranoia, rather than for Patrick McGowan's characters. Oh, Patrick said, "Oh yeah, this one's for you, McCray," and because number 6 would not be bothered by these things. I think it would be a vacation for him. It's like, really, you're not gonna. People are gonna ignore me in the village. Thank God I don't have to have some insipid conversation with some old weirdo. Oh, good. The phone doesn't work. Yes. I think the problem is that it would be backfiring on number 2, and that he would number 6 would keep trying to come up with new ways to be voted unmutual, be trying to pay people off with work units to call them unmutual, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, he's very deliberately like, they're at the group meeting where they're all like, you're being a mutual. He's like clapping and just being a dick. It's like, yeah, I mean, of course he's going to be a dick. I mean, what do you expect in that situation? And it's also interesting because it's kind of like, the whole plot stems on convincing number 6 that he's been lobotomized, and we can talk about that because it's kind of there's actually a kind of contextual thing to talk about.
But he instantly knows he's not, right?
Yeah, he knows he's not. Why not just drug him? Why not just like, okay, give him some drugs and go, okay, well, come on. It just seems like it's. And the funny thing is, and this is a directorial get. For the longest time, I had a problem as to how we get from he's lobotomized to they just say, oh, he wasn't lobotomized. The scene where the procedure is happening, you see her 2 hands at the 2 dials and it fades to black.
Yeah, but they go to the harmless direction.
Yeah, and the thing is, it fades out as she's going to the harmless direction. It's something I never caught before. If McGowan because McGowan direct, okay, if Joseph Surf, which is Polish for Patrick McGowan, had bothered to like just leave it there and let we see the turn as it fades to black, that would have sold it a lot more because it just felt like, oh, okay, well, we didn't lobotomize him.
How did number 6 know to have a ghoulish grin on his face during the procedure? He had never seen the procedure happen, and yeah, he had this. Boy, that's the riskiest bluff in the world. Because imagine if if it hadn't been a goofy grin that you had on your face during it, which would be my bet. I think number 2 would be like, what? Why are you smiling? Oh, you're faking it. Geez, number 6, come on. Can we at least play fair?
Yeah,
You ruined everything. I brought some guys in from Sussex for this.
I think number 6 was probably thinking, oh, please burn out my brain. I don't want to have to deal with any of these jerks anymore. This number 2 is so lame.
If I'm not going to be able to escape, I might as well not know that I can't escape. I might as well just, I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
I forget who it is in this episode who does it, but I don't know if it's because I know when he's in like this little waiting room, there's this woman crying and he's sort of smiling at her, sort of wanting to laugh at her. Number 6 is Patrick McGowan's character, but there is a character in this episode who does sort of smile, sort of not necessarily that way, but close to that way. And I think that's where he deducts when they're talking about it. Oh, that must be what that is.
Yeah, because he sees the guy with the little thing on his head.
Yeah.
And he's talking to him, and it's like, oh, okay. So that's what social conversion is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've really grown to appreciate this. I mean, it's been one of my favorite episodes, even though like recently I wasn't quite sure whether I liked it because I hadn't rewatched it.
This
one.
You said it was one of your least favorite episodes.
No, I said I was questionable about it. I didn't say it was my least
All
favorite.
right.
So I do apologize for that.
No, it was my mishearing.
But yeah, and I think my issues with it mostly are around the actor who plays number 2. It's like, where did they get this guy from? It's like, was he just like, oh, okay, I need to pay rent. Okay, here you go.
Chippendales.
I mean, did he get like Patrick McGowan really drunk?
They got to get him to go to Chippendales. No. Yeah, they got this guy from. It was a Chippendales dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for this episode, it makes you sort of feel like number 2 is not even really needed with this whole sort of committee act. My biggest complaint about this episode is sort of similar to yours, Gordon, but mine's a little different. Instead of showing number 2 right away or even showing who it is, there's times in The Prisoner where they don't always show number 2 right away. Why not do that here? And then there's this committee and number 6 is thinking, well, where's number 2? What the heck's going on? Why is there no number 2? And then there's the reveal of who, instead of it being the guy it was, like you said, you could have it be Alan Humphrey Alstrada or hell, David Niven, whoever you want it to be.
Right.
In this episode where there's no number 2, then here's number 2 and he's been behind it the whole time, which would have been psychologically great.
This could have been a very funny episode. This could have been the comedy episode of the show, and they could have gotten away with it. And the way you do it is that you do blame it all on the committee, and he's doing the Humbert Allen Estrada thing. Geez, it's not me. It's this new thing. Number 1 instituted. It's this unmutual thing. And number 6, I'm doing what I can on your behalf. And that he's trying to drive number 6 crazy because it's got to be the most sympathetic, simpatico number 2 ever. The one that number 6 really is like, you may be on, I don't know. I can't figure it out. And so, so it's driving number 6 crazy because it's like, can I trust him or not? He keeps blaming it on the committee. And so finally he decides to turn the tables, which he does, and get number 2 branded unmutual. And, number 6 is kind of like, see. And number 6 tries to walk over with the rest of the society. And they go, no, you're still unmutual too. Just because he's unmutual doesn't mean you're not. And they look at each other and they just stand next to each other and they both fold their arms at the same time and say, well, it's another fine mess you've gotten us into. And they're both now stuck as unmutual. Yeah. Like the end of a Laurel and Hardy or something. I think it's a very funny idea.
Yeah.
but I'm alone.
No, not alone. I will say that again. I love the choreography in these episodes when they have a fight sequences. It looks very crisp and very good, and some of it looks even real, which I like.
I feel so bad for number 6. He's got his gym set up, and his like thugs show up. It's bullying. You know, I like the idea he goes to the Green Dome to complain about the bullying. It's like, guys, really? This also? What are they going to short sheet my bed next? It's just, you've got frat thugs now in the village. I thought of everything that's going to show up in the village, at least I don't have to deal with it. And here they come. Here they come. Hi, Brad.
I like how they start beating them with umbrellas. It's funny. Have you ever seen a Singapore cane match?
Is that where you get the double mouth dribbler or whatever it was?
No. Have you ever seen the wrestler called the Sandman?
No.
Okay, the Sandman was a wrestler in ECW. He would carry a Singapore cane and he would hit people with it.
What's a Singapore cane? Is it a drink?
No, it's a weapon.
It should be a drink. Because right now I could use a couple of Singapore canes.
Is it like a sjambok? Is that what they call them?
It's a long looking stick looking thing made of, I guess, bamboo, if you will. So, and you hit people with it. But the Sandman would hit people with this. I feel like instead of umbrellas, they need Singapore canes to hit number 6 with. But no, they use umbrellas here. That's what it did remind me of that, though.
The guy comes after you. Know, can you imagine wrestling and somebody comes after you with one of those things? It's like, what? Have you? This is this is wrestling. I mean, I got into this for the oil and the skin and the grappling, not this. What is your problem?
You never watched Extreme Championship Wrestling?
This is no. This is were those the episodes Alistair Cook introduced?
No.
No, those were the ones that Howard Da Silva introduced.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah, and if you don't get the reference, follow me on Twitter and I'll explain.
I'm waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp.
Oh my God. So what's you guys' favorite scene in this episode?
I don't know, because I liked it. So,
yeah, I liked it too.
And I like I like the fat, sweaty doofus of a number 2. I think he's a good variety in there. He's the goofy one.
Yeah, I kind of liked it when, you know, he's the tea scene where it's like he says, first he says something a bit sexist, which is like, girls aren't worth anything unless they can make tea, and he's like goes, okay, he goes to boil the water. He's like, okay, here's one for me, one for you, one to grow on. Here's some of the medicated tea. And then, you know, and it's, you know, because it's, I mean, the whole premise was actually a lot of conversations that were going on in culture about social, the idea. There were a lot of ideas going around, and this is where we're going to go into the rabbit hole. So everyone, hold on to your hernia belts.
What is going to be different about that? This is all we're so down far in the rabbit hole. We're going to run into the gopher from Caddyshack. Go for it.
Well, this is going to put people to sleep. So, so at the time, there's a gentleman by the name of Thomas Zaz, who he's not the Batman villain. That's Victor Zaz.
Myth of psychotherapy.
Right. And Zaz believed that basically what we call mental illness was a reaction to social problems. So it's like, you know, if you're living if you're living in the late 60s, it was an existential garbage fire. Maybe not as much as living in 2023, but if you're dealing with a lot of stuff, of course you're going to be depressed and anxious. and he kind of saw it as that the medical field was kind of they're getting their hands in it. Mental health had become too much of a medical issue, because you had, on one side, you had the behaviorists who were all like, plug in, you're nothing more than the sum of your thoughts. You're like, there's a behaviorist named John B. Watson who didn't work for Sherlock Holmes, but who was Mariette Hartley's grandfather, who once said, if you give me a bunch of people, a bunch of babies, and you point and say, rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, I can ensure that they will turn into those people. I mean, that's how strong they believed. You also had in the middle kind of the high-end medication. Yeah, let's just lobotomize and electroshock people. And here's a spoiler. They didn't know what they were doing. It wasn't like, okay, we know very precisely about. It's basically, let's stick a pick in somebody's eye socket and just scrape away. And then you had the psychoanalysts who are all about, no matter what, it's mommy issues.
Toilet training.
Yeah.
Speaking of Adam. Now, do you have a favorite crazy psychologist?
I actually do. And
I do.
I'm going to make a recommendation for YouTube, but Fritz Perls.
Okay. He was the Iron Sheik's manager.
Yes. If you go to YouTube and you look up Gloria's Psychotherapy, there were a series of films done in the mid-1960s by the American Psychological Association. It was a woman named Gloria who saw three of the leading thinkers in mental health. Carl Rogers, who's no relation to Fred Rogers, but they did have a simple, client-centered, very similar temperament. Albert Ellis, who came up with rational emotive therapy, who was kind of like, basically, he'd basically say, hey, you have goofy beliefs, you need to rethink that. And Fritz Perls, who was the grandfather who created Gestalt psychotherapy, which is not really practiced anymore, but it's very much in the moment. And he's basically the best way. Imagine, I'm trying to think of imagine if you had Saul Rubinek with a German accent cosplaying Patrick.
Well, that makes me very happy. All of those things. I love Saul Rubinek.
Mm-hmm.
So I got two. Of course, you gotta go with Wilhelm Reich.
Yeah. Reich is
the classic.
Yeah. Reich was not. Yeah, Reich was. He was a few toupees short of a Shatner.
He really was. Joel, do you know Wilhelm Reich?
No.
How would you like to be able to shoot down a UFO with the same weapon you could create a thunderstorm with? How about that? Would you like that?
I'm on board.
You're a psychiatrist. Would you go for that? Would you like that? Now, guess powered by
what?
Orgone energy.
No.
Orgone energy. Do you know anybody who lives in a double wide?
Yes.
They are living in a giant, what he called an orgone accumulator. And there's actual orgone energy that builds up in those things, any big metal box. So he's my first. But really, the all-time king is a guy named Ewan Cameron. You heard of Ewan Cameron?
I have never heard of Ewan Cameron.
Ewan Cameron was a Scottish psychologist living in Canada, and yet was the architect of MK Ultra.
Oh, okay.
And was a serious badass when it came to the things he would do. And so many people who came in contact with Ewan Cameron fell down flights of stairs and fell out windows and all. He was very direct when it came to solving certain problems. But Ewan Cameron was at the outer end of bizarre just weird abuses of the human mind in the name of patriot. He was the Edward Teller of the psychiatry world, psychology world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Oh, wow. That's
He's a guy you do not want to mess with, and I think his potential reaches into the realms of power went pretty far.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll give you my favorite scene in this episode, and it is literally when number 6 is hypnotizing the girl with the watch. And I really enjoyed the sequence. I love how he turns the tables on number 86.
Isn't she a medical professional?
Yeah, she is.
Isn't she involved in the psychology business? And she still gets hypnotized with a watch.
Well,
That's a helpful watch.
She drinks the tea too. She drinks the tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before that, which is
And you
really
would think she'd take a sip and go, okay, what's this tea tastes funny. You know what I mean?
That's just morning thunder, my dear. You'll like it later. It's set you right up.
Tastes like roofies.
Sodium oxybate. I had a prescription for a while. It goes under the name of Xyrem. And you had to wake up. It was a sleep aid, and you had to wake up in the middle of the night to take more of it. Where's the sense in that? Mm-hmm. It was horrible.
Okay, so
these have gotten really strange.
With number 2 in the committee, what's something you liked about the committee and didn't like about the committee?
Those hats. Those busybody ladies, those wacky hats.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I liked it or not, but those hats, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'd say I like the hats. Unfortunately, the thing I didn't like is I kept having flashbacks to all the board meetings and community group meetings I had to do as a professional, because it would be always talking around. There's an old cliche about how every meeting could have been an email. And this was before there's even these were like, okay, we need to do this, and it was always talking around the issue. And I would be like, look, what do we do? Let's just decide on a moment, or even worse, brainstorming sessions at marketing agencies.
Ooh, I've never. What's that?
It's basically like just throwing stuff. It's kind of like what we do in these shows, except we don't pretend like we're solving a client's problem. We're just doing this because it's Thursday night. We have nothing better to do. At least one of us is drunk off their ass. I'm not going to indicate who it is. Maybe 2 of us are drunk. We don't know.
I detect the odious stench of design thinking behind what you're talking about. Is there some design thinking happen there?
No. Because at least design thinking, there's an order to it. It's usually if you brainstorm, but you're finding a solution. With marketing agency, it's more like, how do we make this? How do we make this soda? Okay, let me give you an honest example. When I started at a marketing agency years ago, I just moved back to Chicago. I had some experience doing online, so they were starting up a social media program, and this was 2008. This particular agency had a contract with Banquet Meals, and they were trying to, they wanted to sell the idea that banquet foods were good for budget-conscious people.
Okay.
And the big issue was when you looked up ways to save money when eating. It was more about home cooking, and it was trying to make budget, basically TV dinners hot and sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and usually there's a lot of, we can do this, we can do that. What about this? What about that? It's like a lot of talking, but nothing moving forward. It's just, let's throw some ideas up at the wall. And usually the idea that there's no idea that one, it was like somebody would go off and go, hey, we should do this totally random thing. Okay.
See, the thing that would frustrate me in a situation like that would be I would sit there and I would think, and in my own humble opinion, I would come up with a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be very polite and wait my turn and then finally offer it. And maybe it would get talked about for a second, maybe just ignored, but then it would go off in some other direction that frankly wasn't as good. And I would think, why did I even waste my time?
Yeah, that's how I felt. It's like, you want me to contribute, but and it was always more about politics and looking good than it was actually doing stuff. Whereas in design thinking, there's actual a process where, you're brainstorming, but your brainstorming is to, how are we going to make this ideal for this website, app, whatever, ideal for the user. So at least there's a noble goal in that.
There is.
At marketing agency, it's more like, okay, we got to make the client happy.
Don Draper, where are you when we need you?
Is there anything you guys want to add about this episode?
It's better than I thought. I mean, I think it's probably the most satirical, one of the most satirical prisoner episodes there is. There are. I don't even know what verb to use at the end of that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. It's a good episode. I think the only thing that sells it short is the number 2, who, I guess that I guess he walked in from a dinner theater production of Oliver or something, because he has a very
dinner part.
Yeah, there's a very artful dodger quality about him, or he probably I don't know if they had whiteout at the time, but he probably scratched off his name out of his resume and wrote down Thayer David, and went in just to kind of oh yeah, we like that guy. He's on Dark Shadows. He's actually pretty good. Okay, we'll hire you. Wait, what?
Same
You're
trick
not
Lexington
Thayer David.
used. Same trick Lexington Steele used. He convinced people for years he was Thayer David. He wished.
I really like there's a lot in this episode. There's a bit of comedy, there's a bit of action, there's drama. And I love the comedy number 6 does in the waiting area. It's funny, and he's clapping his hands together, he's snapping his fingers, he's doing things to irritate him. In many ways, he's as much of an antagonist as number 2 in this episode, if not more. Which you love him for it.
If you're number 2, he's definitely the antagonist.
You ever watch one of those movies where, like, for example, Death Wish 3, they were wanting Ernest Borgnine, but they didn't get Ernest Borgnine, so because they couldn't afford him, so they got somebody else.
Well, Martin Balsam's a really good actor. So
yeah.
If Martin Balsam was the original voice of Hal before he was replaced by Douglas Rain. So if you have to slum it, Marty's a good guy to slum it with.
And then for Death Wish 5, they were wanting Jack Nicholson, and they didn't get Jack Nicholson. They couldn't afford him.
Golden and Globus were crazy. Just to think they could get Jack Nicholson.
Joel, have you ever seen the movie Electric Boogaloo?
I've heard of it.
It's worth. I don't know if it's on Tubi. You need to seek it out, because Golden Globus were basically their idea of putting together a movie is was basically okay, we're gonna do a big screen Dark Shadows, and we're gonna get I'm trying to think of an actor. We're gonna get Frank Langella to be Barnabas Collins. Oh, he played Dracula already? No, this isn't Dracula. And then we're going to get the young one, the girl, the Brooke Shields to play Victoria Winters. And they would actually sell the idea, get the money, and then make the movie. So it wasn't that's why a lot of those, this is the studio that made Chuck Norris's Star.
They made Superman 4.
They made Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, which is a masterpiece. Joel, you need to go see Electric Boogaloo. In fact, I will tell you this. I think if you see Electric Boogaloo, we should have you, me, Patrick, and Butch all discuss it.
we have great.
You said it's on Tubi.
Yeah, you may not know how many Canon Pictures you've seen, but you're the kind of guy who I think Canon Pictures was very, very formative on. It was formative on me.
Yeah, me too.
And in the middle of all of their weirdness, sometimes they'd make a great movie. But it was totally by accident. I mean, these people made Dino De Laurentiis look like Irving Thalberg.
Well, you ever see the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg?
I've heard of it.
Okay, well, Canon Pictures made that movie, by the way. Speaking of them, but the director was really, I guess, messing up the movie. So in a lot of ways, Canon Pictures, they contacted Jean-Claude Van Damme. They said, Jean-Claude, you want to be a star. We want you to be a star. You go down and you direct the movie. You fix the mess because the director's incompetent. And so he did. They let him do it.
On the job application for director on Canon Pictures, it was your name and your phone number, and then just 2 boxes. It was yes, no. Will you screw up this movie? And if you wrote yes, then they said, you're hired. Pretty much.
Yeah. Their idea of a screenwriter was if you could, basically they would say, "Can you write us a movie about a monkey, and a boy, and they go do stuff?" Yeah, I can do that.
I've been dreaming of writing about a monkey and a boy.
Yeah, and you could come in with it could be written in red crayon on loose leaf paper, and they go, "Yeah, we filmed this.
Oh, I see you use Final Draft. Yeah. They would have hired Christopher Moltisanti.
You guys are awesome. For YouTube, I'm Joel Sage. That's Gordon Lightning Dymowski, and that's Patrick Fire McCray, because they're awesome. That's their wrestling names I'm giving them. Oh, by the way, one more catchphrase before you guys go. Jim Ross would also say, "Open up a can of whoop ass." Literally. So
I wrote that line into my master's thesis.
There you go.
Play in a production of Inherit the Wind. The judge.
Because that's originally where the open a can of whoop ass came from. It was Inherent the Wind.
But yeah, it was in my production of Inherit the Wind. At one point, the judge says, you better rethink that, or I'm going to have my bailiff open up a can of whoop ass on the learned counsel.
I like that. Guys, first of all, thank you so much for doing another episode of The Prisoner with me. This is fun. What episode is next, Gordon?
I'll let Patrick choose the next episode.
Okay. I think in keeping with weird brain stuff, let's go with Schizoid Man.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, when's good for you guys for Schizoid Man?
It's up to the G-Man.
Let's see. I'm good. Keeping it our usual time, I'm good Friday night. Well, no, not tomorrow night, because I don't know, Jewel, you're doing the Dream Curse arc with Between the Shadows.
Yep.
I'm good Saturday night. I'm good Sunday night, and I'm good Monday night.
Let's go Sunday, guys. We good?
Yeah. I wish I were doing the Dream Curse thing with the Between the Shadows.
Would you like to come on?
No. That was not my way of, Lucying my way into the Tropicana production. I just think that those are very pleasant people.
You're more than welcome to come on. You know this.
Well, Joel, if you ever want to do an episode on time travel and Dark Shadows, I'm your guy, because I'm presenting on that on Saturday.
We do need to do it. We all need to get together. Patrick, Gordon, the Between the Shadows girls, and do a time travel episode. That would be fun.
They love that Dream Curse, though.
Yeah, they do.
Love the Dream Curse.
They do. So tomorrow night I'll be doing a Dream Curse with them. Guys, it's been a link to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. You can get it in the description box. Go get it on Amazon. Link to Gordon's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Guys, it is always a pleasure. I'll see you Sunday night.
Thank you, Joel.
Good night, all.
Thank you. Good night, guys. Be safe. Bye.